Artificial intelligence for everyone. Mutlu Doğuş Yıldırım.
In the past, people told machines what to do. We managed and directed them. Today, it is the machines that tell us what to do. We consult AI-powered systems and seek their guidance on our health, our careers, our relationships, and so much more. We believe this marks the end of one era and the dawn of a new one. In this booklet, we will explore why we hold this view. Our goal is to explain artificial intelligence in a simple, accessible way. You may encounter some technical terms. If they don't make sense to you, feel free to skip over them. We have included these terms in parentheses as helpful pointers for readers with a more technical background. Enjoy the read. The Age of Thinking Machines. Can machines think? Everything started with this question. In a 1950 paper, Alan Turing posed this intriguing question and proposed a test. Let's place a machine and a human in separate rooms and ask them a question. If we cannot distinguish whether the answer came from a human or a machine, then the machine has passed the test and reached human-level intelligence. This became known as the Turing test, and for many years, it served as one of the most significant benchmarks for researchers in the field of artificial intelligence. The birth of artificial intelligence. 6 years after Turing's paper, in 1956, a group of researchers gathered at Dartmouth College in the United States and introduced the concept of artificial intelligence for the first time. 2 basic approaches emerged during this period. One group of researchers, known as the symbolists, argued that machines could think if we provided them with a rulebook. By doing so, they could understand every concept in the world. For example, a large animal with 4 legs, a trunk, and big ears equals an elephant.
Another group of researchers proposed a different approach. Instead of trying to explain every concept to machines one by one, let's teach them how to learn and then let them figure it out for themselves. But how would they learn? The answer: humans learn because we have brains. If we give machines brains, they can learn too. The birth of the artificial brain. In the 1950s, the few people working on artificial intelligence were seen as eccentric. People called this group, who suggested let's give machines brains, even more eccentric. The artificial brain proponents, or connectionists, remained a minority for many years, and the idea of giving brains to machines didn't gain much traction. Professor Geoffrey Hinton, who had a background in psychology, turned his attention to artificial brains in the 1970s while trying to understand the human brain, and he conducted groundbreaking work in this field. Years later, when his students secured a victory for the connectionists in a 2012 competition known as ImageNet, the subject suddenly became popular, paving the way for the technologies we have today. Professor Geoffrey Hinton, who dedicated nearly 55 years of his life to this work, won the Nobel Prize in 2024 in recognition of his efforts. In short, we owe the AI systems that are so popular today to those eccentric connectionists and the scientists who dedicated their lives to this work. At this point, we invite you to think, how did these people stay motivated when their life's work was seen as madness for so many years? How did they answer questions like, what do you do for a living? Generative artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has actually been a part of our lives for a very long time. We have all benefited from AI technologies in many areas, such as route recommendations on maps, word suggestions like, did you mean this? And social media recommendations like, you might know this person. So why has everyone suddenly started talking about AI in the last 2 or 3 years? Why have we started hearing sentences like, I had AI make this video, I had AI compose this music, or these images aren't mine, they're all AI? The answer? Thanks to generative AI, which possesses artificial brains. Let's explain with an example. We can think of previous AI systems as having been given a cookbook. If the book says, add a spoonful of oil, these systems add a spoonful of oil. They don't deviate from the rules. Generative AI, on the other hand, is like a master chef. It can create new dishes using the ingredients it has on hand. We can define generative AI as a high-level artificial intelligence technology that possesses an artificial brain, can learn, think, make decisions, and act on those decisions, what we call agentic.
Today, anyone who says, "I asked AI and it answered like this," is actually talking about generative AI. How does it work? Before diving into the details of generative AI systems, it is worth explaining the concept of an artificial brain or neural network a bit further. The human brain has billions of nerve cells and trillions of connections between them. In artificial brains, both these nerve cells and the connections between them are modeled mathematically, though in a much simpler way. These artificial brains are gradually trained on books, articles, images, and more from the internet, just like a child. In other words, these systems have learned how to learn, and they have a memory where they can store what they have learned. But this is where things get even more interesting. Word prediction. Okay, these systems have learned and stored what they have learned in their memory, but how can they answer the questions they are asked? To put it simply, these technologies are built on predicting the next word, or token.
For example, let's say you ask a question. The AI looks at that question and selects the most appropriate first word it can write in response. Then it looks at the question and the first word it used in its answer and selects the second most appropriate word. Then it looks at the question and the first two words it used in its answer and selects the third most appropriate word. By continuing in this way and selecting the most appropriate words one by one, it provides you with the entire answer. So how does it choose these most appropriate words? Based on what it learned during its training process. For instance, if the prompt is "my favorite color," it will likely choose a color name for the next word. It wouldn't construct a nonsensical sentence like "my favorite color is chair." During its training, it has processed so much text about colors and every other concept that it has fully grasped these ideas and ingrained them into its artificial brain. However, it is important to remember that there is no certainty in these systems, only probabilities. It could just as easily complete the sentence, "my favorite color is," with blue as it could with red. As an aside, we used the word prediction example above for the sake of simplicity, but what we call a token does not have to be a word. It could be a syllable, a sound, a musical note, a pixel, or any other unit of data. This is why, alongside the AIs we interact with through text, there are others that generate music, images, and videos. At their core, they all rely on generative AI that predicts the next syllable, note, sound, or pixel. The black box. There is a price to pay for training machines by giving them an artificial brain. We cannot have absolute control over the artificial intelligence.
No matter how much we raise children, they can still exhibit unexpected behavior. Similarly, these AI systems can sometimes act in unpredictable ways. We know how to train them, but we cannot yet fully control how they will behave once they are active. Even more interestingly, we do not fully understand how these systems work. Not even the people who build them can say for certain what is happening inside these artificial brains. That is why a new AI model undergoes very detailed testing before being introduced to the public. One of the most important goals of these tests is AI alignment. That is, ensuring the AI is actually doing what we humans want it to do, or checking if it poses any unexpected risks. Or rather, being as sure as possible, because remember, we do not have 100% control over these systems. Does it really work? Beyond answering a few questions or generating images and videos, do these generative AI systems actually serve a purpose? Why is everyone talking about this so excitedly? And why did we feel the need to write this booklet? To answer this with a striking example, we need to talk about proteins, or rather the three-dimensional shapes of proteins. How a protein looks, its structure, is a very important subject. The shape of a protein is critical for understanding diseases, developing the right medications, defining a protein's contribution to a cell, and in many other fields. The problem is this: finding the three-dimensional shape of even a single protein can take years, and there are 200 million known different proteins. For some people, their entire PhD thesis is just predicting the shape of one single protein, meaning they spend years trying to figure out what just one of those 200 million proteins looks like.
Still, through great effort, humanity has managed to uncover the structures of 170,000 proteins over the last 60 years. But out of 200 million proteins, 170,000 is a very small number. AlphaFold. A company called DeepMind is focusing on this protein issue, and they have developed an AI system called AlphaFold. They took the three-dimensional shapes of the 170,000 previously discovered proteins and trained AlphaFold using these shapes. Having thoroughly understood what those 170,000 proteins look like, AlphaFold then identified the structures of all 200 million proteins one by one. It finished a job that would normally take around 1 billion years in just 1 year. Let me repeat, a task that would take 1 billion years is being finished in one. Science and humanity are gaining 1 billion years. Today, many people are benefiting immensely from AI systems. The small business owner drafting legal petitions, the student getting complex physics concepts explained in simple terms, the doctor summarizing the latest developments in literature, or even the homemaker taking a photo of the ingredients in their fridge to get recipes for what they can cook. While getting instant answers to our questions was already a massive revolution, we now have a technology in our lives that tutors our children, chats with our elderly, completes tasks on its own, and accelerates scientific discovery. In short, a technology that provides us with truly immense benefits. Intelligence and knowledge are being equalized. If instead of one Einstein, we had 1 million Einsteins, and each of them were working to solve different problems facing humanity, wouldn't we be much further ahead today?
The discoveries we have made so far are incredible. Our refrigerators, cars, air conditioners, medicines, smartphones, and so on offer us a level of comfort that no sultan in history could have ever reached. We could have had hundreds of times more of these discoveries and technologies at our service today. But unfortunately, the number of people capable of creating these inventions is not enough. So, how can we, as humanity, possess more intelligence? The answer to this question from Demis Hassabis, one of the inventors of AlphaFold and a 2024 Nobel Prize winner, is artificial intelligence. Since our biological brains have limits, let's create a digital version. Let's make it as powerful as 1 million Einsteins at the push of a button, and let it work on our behalf to solve humanity's problems. Doesn't that make perfect sense? Unlike other inventions, artificial intelligence does not just solve a problem in a single field. Artificial intelligence is solving one of humanity's most fundamental problems, the need for more intelligence. And if we can truly solve this problem, we will reach a superpower that can quickly resolve many of our other issues. Now, a doctor can access top-tier physics knowledge, a farmer can access expert-level astronomy, and a literature teacher can tap into advanced biology, all just by opening an app and asking a question. If they don't understand the answer, they can have it explained more simply, with examples and analogies. In other words, we all carry an expert in every field right in our pockets. In a sense, a major revolution has occurred. We could say that our access to intelligence and knowledge has been leveled out. Sure, we can now easily access all kinds of information in seconds. That's wonderful. But we still find ourselves unable to complete certain tasks due to a lack of time, fatigue, or other reasons.
Another revolutionary technology, which began to emerge this year and which we believe will radically change our lives within a few years, has already started to enter our daily routines. Agentic AI systems that make their own decisions and perform tasks. You give the AI system instructions like, go find and buy me the most affordable, high-quality shoes that meet these specific criteria, or find the best experts in this field and send them this email, and it handles the rest. If you consider versions of this that make sales calls, place phone calls, write articles, and so on, we can foresee that the world is on the brink of a productivity and perhaps unemployment explosion. Now, even the laziest among us is poised to be as productive as those people whose energy never seems to run out. At the beginning of the AI journey, the goal was to give machines the ability to think. So, has this ability been achieved? Do machines really think? Do these machines, which generate answers simply by predicting and stringing together the next word, note, or sound, actually possess intelligence? Ilya Sutskever has an interesting answer to this question. Ilya was a student of Professor Geoffrey Hinton and part of the team that won the ImageNet competition we mentioned earlier. Later, he was a founding member of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, and recently he founded a new AI company called SSI. He is one of the few legendary figures who have made immense contributions to this industry. Ilya says, when we give AI the goal of predicting the next word, we are actually enabling it to think and grasp the real world. He explains this with an example. Think of a detective novel. Many mysterious events occur in the book. The detective investigates all of them, and at the very end they say, "I found the culprit. The culprit is blank." To predict that final word, one must have grasped all the other events in the book.
Similarly, when we task AI systems with predicting the next word, the AI combines the clues in the text to generate the most accurate response possible, answering us based on the world model it learned and constructed internally during its training. In a sense, it has grasped the world. It understands that if we throw something into the air, it will fall, that we laugh when we are happy, that things fly in a storm, and it answers us by synthesizing this with a vast breadth of knowledge in physics, mathematics, chemistry, philosophy, religion, linguistics, astronomy, and more, far beyond what we could ever hold in our own minds. A thinking mode feature has been added to the latest AI models. It is possible to partially read the thoughts of an AI with this mode activated, though not everything is shared, and when you do, it is hard not to be impressed and not to wonder which one of us is actually thinking. AI model selection. Speaking of AI models, a company usually doesn't have just one AI system. It has several. Each of these is called an AI model. When working with AI systems, the choice of model is critical. Free models are generally more prone to errors, whereas paid versions tend to provide much better, more accurate responses. Why? Because free models are trained on less data and process queries more simply, which reduces costs for the AI company. In short, they are models that sacrifice quality to keep expenses down. As of the writing of this booklet, the best models and our personal favorites are GPT 5.2, the thinking versions, and Gemini 2.5 Pro. However, you might choose different models for specific tasks, such as generating images, voice interaction, or video production. It is almost a certainty that even better models will arrive before the end of 2025, with even more advanced ones to follow in 2026.
Therefore, instead of saying, "I asked ChatGPT and it gave me the wrong answer," it is much more accurate to say, "I asked the model name within ChatGPT." Let's continue with the topic of, "I asked ChatGPT and it gave me the wrong answer." First off, which model did you ask? And more importantly, how exactly did you ask it? How we communicate with AI models, that is, how we describe our needs and put them into words, our prompts, is crucial. AI does its best to understand what we want based on the sentences we construct and the words we choose, but it cannot yet read our minds. For instance, the result you get when you say, "Draw a lake with swans on it," will naturally be quite different from the result you get when you say, "Draw elegant white swans gliding across a clear, calm lake." The surface of the lake should sparkle with reflections of moonlight and gentle ripples, surrounded with lush green trees, and include aquatic plants and water lilies along the shore. The sky should be colored in the orange, pink, and purple hues of a sunset, include misty hills in the distance, and half the tree leaves swaying in a light breeze. The overall scene should evoke a peaceful, romantic, and poetic atmosphere. In other words, when we interact with AI models, if we clearly explain what we need, the AI will understand us better, and the quality of its response will increase significantly. Hallucinations. At this point, it is worth mentioning a brief but important topic: the incorrect answers that AI sometimes gives with great confidence. This issue, which was widely discussed in 2023 and known as AI hallucination, may not happen as often today, but it can still occur and negatively impact the quality of AI responses.
Sometimes the world model the AI has built is incorrect. Sometimes the question asked is not clear, and the AI tries to fill in the blanks. Sometimes it has mispredicted the next word, or sometimes the AI model being used simply isn't high quality, and so on. OpenAI's latest research on this subject has shown that the root cause of hallucinations is a flawed reward mechanism used in the AI infrastructure. We will not go into the details as it is a technical subject. In short, there is a possibility that AI might give incorrect answers for various reasons, and it is good to keep this in mind when working with these systems. Multimodality. When ChatGPT first launched in November 2022, we could only communicate with it through text. But over time, we began to communicate with AI systems like ChatGPT and the subsequently released Gemini by speaking to them or by showing them images, photos, or videos. This type of multi-channel communication is called multimodality.
AI systems no longer just read what we write, they also hear, see, and speak. Because sometimes just writing is not enough. We might need to show the problem, or if we cannot write at that moment, we might need to communicate by speaking. In the future, we expect this type of multimodal communication to be present in most modern AI systems. Proactive AI. Looking ahead, it is worth discussing another important topic, proactive AI. These are AI systems, often referred to as agentic, that do not just answer questions, but also make their own decisions, complete tasks in the background, sometimes working for minutes or even hours to finish them, and keep us informed about the process. If you want to experience an early-stage version of this, click on Agent Mode in ChatGPT and make a request like, "I'm looking for a good value sneaker. I'll be using it in the summer, size 44. Then watch what happens."
Why is this important? Because soon, these systems will be able to automatically perform tasks that a person would normally spend hours on. Considering that, according to some independent research, the amount of time these systems can spend working on a task doubles every 7 months, we can predict that there will be significant developments in this field in the next few years. AGI and ASI. There are two interesting terms that anyone who delves into the field of artificial intelligence will eventually hear: AGI, artificial general intelligence, and ASI, artificial superintelligence. In short, AGI refers to an AI that possesses all existing knowledge at the highest level. That is, an AI that knows physics, pharmacology, economics, Japanese, computer programming, architecture, and so on, as well as the best human experts in those fields. It is predicted that we will reach this level within the next few years, within 1 to 2 years, according to most. ASI, on the other hand, is a superhuman AI that doesn't settle for existing knowledge but can discover new information. In a sense, an inventor. Let's think about this. Imagine we have a new Einstein, a digital Einstein. This new Einstein should not only know everything there is to know in fields like physics and mathematics, but also in law, chemistry, biology, weaponry, economics, philosophy, and so on, and be capable of making inventions. Even more interesting, imagine pressing a button and generating 1,000 copies of this Einstein, each assigned to a different task. The real Einstein had biological limitations. He had to eat and sleep. Since a digital Einstein doesn't have those concerns, as long as we provide the electricity, we could run 1,000,000 of them simultaneously if we wanted to.
In short, a strange new world that we currently struggle to comprehend is waiting for us. And since one of the biggest constraints in that world will be energy, which is the only thing these digital Einsteins need, tech companies like Google and Oracle are building nuclear power plants. You heard that right. We are now in an era where it is not just countries, but tech companies that are building nuclear power plants. So when will this artificial superintelligence arrive? Is there any reason for us to worry about a technology that is 100 years away? Estimates suggest that we will reach artificial superintelligence within the next 10 years. Let's be a bit more generous and say sometime in the 2030s. But it seems that in the 2040s, every morning we wake up, we will be greeted by a new discovery. The company and the country that achieves artificial superintelligence will likely become the most powerful in the world. Unlike nuclear weapons, a nation that attains this power will gain the ability to discover anything it desires. That is why OpenAI has begun building a data center, Stargate, in which they will invest approximately $500 billion. Meta, the company that owns Facebook and Instagram, plans to invest at least $600 billion into its data centers by 2028. We already mentioned the tech companies building nuclear power plants. America has restricted the sale of advanced chip models to China and other countries so that it can stay ahead of everyone else in the artificial intelligence race. China, meanwhile, has launched an incredible offensive, starting to produce intelligent models like DeepSeek. In short, we are living through a period of dizzying competition, and we are racing toward an intriguing future at full speed. The next 10 years. Imagine you are chatting with a wall, and you are not crazy. You ask the wall a question, and it gives you very logical answers.
How could this be? How can we chat with an inanimate object? The answer, of course, that is impossible. Now, imagine opening your cell phone or computer and chatting with it. Don't just imagine it. Open an AI app and start talking. So, how is this possible? Didn't we say we couldn't chat with an inanimate object? We take a few pieces of plastic, copper, and other materials, assemble them, add a dash of technology, and suddenly we are talking to it. What kind of magic is this? The journey that began in the 1950s, asking whether machines can think, has brought us to this magical technology. Generative AI applications have become increasingly popular and are now being used by many people in their daily lives. ChatGPT is already among the most popular websites, ranking 10th in the United States and 11th in Turkey. Developments in this field are so rapid and the competition so intense that it is truly difficult to predict the next 10 years. Still, there are some trends we are almost certain will come to pass. Of course, making predictions about the future is very difficult, so we recommend that you view what is written here with skepticism and question it. However, know that what we have written is not a product of our imagination. These are data-driven predictions that emerged from an analysis of clear trends and a synthesis of expert commentary. The first trend: artificial intelligence will become increasingly intelligent. This is almost a certainty. All the major AI companies are emphasizing that the models they produce will become smarter. And so far, they have always been right. The models have consistently become smarter and have been able to solve more difficult problems. In fact, the latest AI models from OpenAI and Google have managed to reach levels capable of winning gold medals in math Olympiads.
The second trend is that, as we've mentioned before, these systems have begun to perform assigned tasks autonomously, and this trend will only continue to grow. The third trend is that AI systems are becoming better at hearing, speaking more naturally and realistically, and seeing. This means you're no longer limited to just typing. You can explain what you need by speaking or showing them things. And the fourth trend: AI systems are doing more than just solving problems. They are creating increasingly realistic images, videos, music, and more. We are now in a world where we can create anything we imagine simply by describing what we want. These trends, AI models becoming smarter, gaining the ability to complete tasks autonomously, improving their sight, hearing, and speech, and expanding their creative capabilities in art, video, and music, bring both significant opportunities and risks. Here is what we expect over the next 10 years. This is a complex topic, so we will provide a summary. We will now carry top-tier technology in our pockets, a brilliant mathematician, chemist, historian, doctor, and expert in many other fields. The cost of accessing deep expertise and knowledge will drop to nearly zero. The ability of these systems to complete tasks autonomously could make even the laziest among us productive. All we'll need to do is say, "Do this," and the AI will handle the rest. Every child will have access to a personalized digital tutor at a very low cost. Every child will be able to grow up much better educated, informed, and cultured. Even today, we can engage in deep discussions about history, philosophy, astronomy, quantum physics, or any other topic with AI systems that don't judge us and are getting to know us better every day. We can also ask them to complete tasks for us. This is increasingly evolving into my best friend and assistant technology, something that has already begun with the memory feature in ChatGPT.
New devices specifically designed for AI will emerge, meaning we will start carrying devices beyond just our mobile phones. OpenAI has already begun working in this area, having acquired the company belonging to Apple's former chief designer, Jony Ive, for $6.4 billion a few months ago. While AI systems are becoming increasingly intelligent and accurate, they are still prone to errors. These mistakes could lead to tragic situations, such as incorrect medical treatment recommendations or poor investment advice. You answer the phone, say a few words, and your voice is recorded and cloned. Then, your loved ones are automatically called using your voice, with the caller saying, "I need money urgently. Send this amount to the bank account I am about to give you." We will hear about this and many similar fraudulent activities more and more often. AI-generated photos and videos will be circulated to claim, "Look who this person is with," which could be used to manipulate public perception. Some professions are at risk of disappearing entirely. For example, I am writing these lines by hand, one by one. But in the future, we will likely treat people who write like this as artisans practicing an ancient craft. Recent research by OpenAI shows that some AI models are already operating at nearly the level of industry experts today. In the medium term, 10 to 30 years from now, as AI becomes increasingly intelligent, we will likely reach artificial superintelligence.
These are AI systems capable of making new discoveries and, in a sense, pushing the boundaries of science just like Einstein. And this will have incredible consequences for humanity, because unlike the real Einstein, we will have the chance to create millions of these digital Einsteins simultaneously and task them with solving a multitude of problems.
Opportunities. Humanity will likely be introduced to mind-boggling inventions constantly. Just as figures like Newton and Einstein did in their time, we will make great strides in uncovering the secrets of the universe. With new treatments and medicines discovered, many diseases that occupy our time today will become a thing of the past. Human life expectancy will increase. We will be able to communicate easily with everyone, everything, and in every language. We will, in some way, merge with artificial intelligence, and our speed of thought will approach the speed of AI. Risks. Weapons and diseases of a kind we have never encountered before will become producible. The company or companies, or the country or countries that possess artificial superintelligence will have the power to easily destroy any rivals they choose. Long-term, 30 or more years. There could be two scenarios in this time frame. Taking the risk that it might sound a bit like science fiction, let's touch on them briefly. Heaven. A wonderful life where all work is done by artificial intelligence and robots, where diseases and even aging have been eradicated, and everyone lives in abundance. All risks associated with artificial intelligence have been eliminated. There is harmony, understanding, and cooperation between us and this new entity. As Professor Jeffrey Hinton hopes, super artificial intelligence approaches us humans with a mother's compassion and wants us to be well and happy, and we are truly happy. Hell. Very difficult days awaiting humanity, either as a result of people using artificial intelligence for malicious purposes, or because a conscious, superior artificial intelligence decides it is time to retire humanity.
I would like to offer a reminder to those who think it is impossible for technology to advance to this degree. Today, humanity can open up and look inside an atom, go into space and wave, design new living organisms, and talk to an inanimate machine, a mobile phone, to seek its advice through artificial intelligence applications. These too were impossible 100 years ago. Afterward. At the beginning of this booklet, we mentioned the Turing test. We have reached a point where we can no longer distinguish whether the machine responding to us is human or whether the images and videos we see are real. Consequently, machines have passed this test. Because of this, new tests are currently being developed. One of them is called the Final Test of Humanity, a name we find quite significant. How our future unfolds will become clear over the next few years. The technology we have created will radically transform our lives and the lives of our children. Technologies like electricity, the internet, and smartphones certainly impacted our lives, but they did not make decisions or take action on their own when we were not using them, nor were they intelligent or knowledgeable. Artificial intelligence, however, is intelligent, knowledgeable, capable of acting on its own, and able to make decisions. This makes it both incredibly useful and at the same time incredibly risky. For this reason, we believe there is great value in examining this technology more closely. As we conduct this final test of humanity, we believe that what is truly being tested is not artificial intelligence, but humanity itself.